Hey everybody, this is Joel Toppin, and I've got a new game here I picked up in Albuquerque at Active Imagination. And this is Test of Fire Battle Bull Run by Martin Wallace. And I'm a pretty big fan of his war games, for lack of a better term. He's got some interesting ideas that he brings to the war game table. And I have his game on Gettysburg, and so I thought I'd pick this one up. So let's look inside the box here, see what we got. I have already punched everything out and played around with it somewhat. This game right here, if you have the Gettysburg game, is a lot lighter than the Gettysburg game, or the Waterloo game for that matter. 16 pages of rules, of which the last page is a summary. Back 2 pages are card descriptions. The cards are pretty much self-explanatory, but where further explanation may be wanted or desired, you can find it back here. And then there's a pretty good chunk of historical notes, 1 page of optional rules, and that leaves you with a whopping 7 pages of actual bodies of rules. So I was able to read this thing in about 10 minutes and was playing the game, just checking it out. That's the rule book, full color, and over here what we have is we've got counters. Let's look at the counters before I look at the map. I can't remember the exact number of the counters, but these are Euro quality. They have kind of a vinyl finish to them. There's all your pieces for the Union player. Most of them, 99% of these, consist of infantry pieces. There are 2 artillery pieces, a forward marker, and 1 general for General McDowell. All the rest are identical to one another, with full strength side on one side, half strength side on the other, or I should say damage side on the other. There is, similarly for the Confederate player, gray infantry, not quite as many. Also 2 artillery. They also come with 2 generals. That comes with General Johnston, which is used in the base game. So there are 2 hardbound cardboard cards, if you will, that basically determine what the player can do during his turn. This is a really cool system that he's laid out. It kind of reminds me a little bit of War of the Ring, the way the dice work. Then you have a deck of cards for each player. I want to say there's 26 for the Confederacy, with different special things that the player can do on them. And of course I've sleeved them. The sleeves don't come with the game. For the Union player, I think they have 29, so there's a total of, I think, 55 cards in the game. So that's the Union player's deck. And they have various different things in the cards, allow you to move extra pieces, give your infantry more firepower, fire more artillery, force your enemy to retreat further than they ordinarily would, or mess with your enemy's orders. Pretty neat stuff in here. It adds a little bit of chrome to the game, just enough to make this a really slick, very lightweight, but actually surprisingly realistic replay of the Battle of First Bull Run, or First Manassas. Game comes with 6 dice for each player. Blue for, whoops, those went flying everywhere. Blue, obviously, for the Union, and gray for the Confederacy. So those are your dice. During the turn, what you do is the Union player is going to roll 4 dice, which usually gives him more options to move around on the map. Whatever you roll determines what you can do during that turn. So if you don't roll movement, it means you can't move any of your pieces. Fire allows you to fire artillery, card allows you to draw a card in your hand, and leader allows you to either draw a card, fire artillery where you have a leader, or move pieces where you happen to have a leader. The Confederacy player can roll 3 dice, so obviously he's not going to have as much that he's able to do during the course of his turn. So, and that makes for a neat trade-off, but the onus of attack is actually on the Union player, so he's going to need all the orders he can get to fulfill the victory conditions that the game lays out for him. Here's the map. It's a hardbound map, which is really nicely illustrated, and this is from Mayfair Games. It's an area control game, so you move from area to adjoining area, never diagonally. So you can't move from here to here, you have to move like so. You can always move 2 pieces across the border, unless there is a number there, in which case you can only move that number of pieces across the border, and some of them are zeros, which means it's an impassable border. There is a forward chit in the game that could be placed via card play on top of one of these to allow you to move more guys across the river. So whenever you do a move order, you can move X number of pieces from one area to an adjoining area. Now if that area is enemy occupied, a battle will ensue. The objective for the game is for the Union player to control 2 of the 3 starred areas or control Manassas Junction. The Confederacy player can win by controlling Centerville. There is another way that you can win. It's not easy to kill pieces in the game, but if you do, there are several cards in each player's deck which do allow them to roll the dice, compare it to the number of, I'm trying to find the thing here, compare the die roll to the number of eliminated pieces. Here it is, route. You roll 2 dice and you win if the roll is less than or equal to the number of enemy units that are eliminated. So if you haven't achieved the geographic victory conditions, you can still win by achieving a casualty victory condition. The way combat works in the game is each infantry piece, whenever they enter an enemy area, is going to roll 2 dice with a maximum of 6. So if you have more than 3 guys in an area, one of those pieces isn't going to be able to fire any dice. If the piece is damaged on its reverse side, that is, then it will still be able to throw 2 dice, but it's more vulnerable to enemy fire. When cannons fire, they throw 1 die per cannon, and if you roll a 5 or 6, it's a hit. Anything less is a miss. Whenever you score a hit with a cannon, you roll a die to find out what the hit does. If it's a 1 through 5, the guy that you hit has to back up, and damage is always under the control of the receiving player. So if the Union fires, the Confederacy player decides how to apportion those losses. Similarly, if in combat with infantry, whenever the attacker inflicts hits on the other side, then the owning player is going to decide how to apportion those hits. Now, with the way the assault combat works, when you move your infantry into an enemy-occupied area, each piece is going to fire 2 dice. Now, the defender always fires first and inflicts his losses first. And whenever you roll a hit, which is a 5 or 6, you roll a die for each hit. 1 through 3 means a piece in that space has to retreat. 5 or 6 means a piece has to take damage, be flipped over, or removed if it's already on its reverse side. And again, damage is under the control of the player. So a lot of times what will happen is that player will try to apportion those losses in such a way as to minimize its effect on him. So that's the game. It plays pretty quick. I think you could play through the whole battle in 2 hours or less easily. It's a game that's easy to explain, especially to younger players, but there's a lot of subtlety in the game, especially with the cards. This is a really slick game. I heard it described as a real luck fest on Board Game Geek, but that's not what I experienced when I was playing it. There is not an unreasonable amount of luck in the game. The dice will tend to even out, and the player is able to have several ways to achieve his victory conditions. So I think this is a fantastic game. Definitely worth checking out. Once again, this is Test of Fire, Martin Wallace. It's published by Mayfair Games, and it's actually very reasonably priced. It's got great components. I rate this one pretty high. This is one of the better games you're going to find out there on a Civil War battle. So, Test of Fire by Mayfair Games, and that's what's inside the box.